For most of human history, the idea of kids working has been a relatively non-controversial topic. In fact, people relied on their kids to help them around the farms, family businesses, or household maintenance just to survive. However informal, the idea of getting an education was mostly reserved for the upper class. Even when people moved in from farms into the cities during the Industrial Revolution, kids continued to find work to pitch in at home. Some crawled into the salt mines or the copper mines, while others took to the assembly lines. Both would have been ocean nightmares, to say the least. But as life became easier for Americans throughout the 20th century, working at a young age became more of a means to buy a PlayStation and socialize rather than survival, as adolescents moved into employment positions at grocery stores, movie theaters, and restaurants. But that trend has been on the decline lately. As we approach the turn of the century, social pressure to go to college discouraged kids from working, especially if money wasn't an issue. For context, teen employment steadily remained around 50% during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but has dwindled down to 35% today, hitting a record low of 28.1% when the lockdowns hit in 2020. As economic concerns have grown over the last few years, particularly with college graduates finding more debt than gold at the end of the academic rainbow, people of all ages are asking if hyper-focusing on college is the right path. Is it time young kids prioritize work opportunities over highfalutin promises of riches offered by higher learning? Thanks for stopping by NPC Overrider, where we challenge mainstream source code to develop an independent thought, one user story at a time. Let's log into the NPC environment and see the latest programming. High school kids need to get an education, not a paycheck. Kids may be used to work on farms and factories, but we're a civilized people now. To be successful these days, one must get a college education. Michelle Obama said it herself. Here's the top reasons why kids need to worry about education over employment. Number 1, educational interference. Number 2, child exploitation. Number 3, childhood and social development impact. Number 4, physical and mental health concerns. Number 5, negative social prioritization. Kids already have enough on their plates between spending most of the day in class, participating in extracurricular activities, doing homework, and dealing with the stresses of being teenagers. Working will hamper their ability to get their grades high enough to get into good schools. A study from Temple University shows that kids who work more than 20 hours a week see a significant drop in academic performance. Employers take advantage of younger people by assigning them work outside their job descriptions or skimping on pay where possible. Not to mention, the world is way more dangerous today. When minors work in restaurants, retail, or theaters, they also become exposed to other threats such as sexual harassment. Even traveling to and from a job, especially at night, could present other safety concerns. Maintaining a busy schedule with school and work affects young people's ability to build meaningful relationships with their peers. We have our whole lives to work, and we should allow young people to have fun and develop social skills as much as possible. Working in a busy restaurant might seem like an excellent opportunity to meet others, but using a job as a social hour instead of taking the work seriously could lead to disciplinary issues and reputational damage. The additional stresses of bussing tables or sweeping up popcorn, combined with school expectations and general adolescence, can negatively impact physical and mental well-being. Any extra time from school or homework should be spent at home with family, friends, ideally in an active outdoor setting, instead of doing menial labor for low wages. Again, we have our whole lives to stress over finances. Advocates for teen employment tend to set the expectation that money is everything. Teenagers today should spend time exploring their interests to determine what they want to be when they grow up instead of securing a paycheck. It's true that most modern professionals have college degrees these days, but it's usually because of the social expectations to get an education as opposed to a necessity for the job at hand. Young people should get a basic education, but we mustn't forget the lessons learned on the clock. All right, here's the main statements. Number 1, development of skills, responsibility, and work ethic. Financial independence and contribution, preparation for the real world, delinquency reduction, and lastly, entrepreneurial inspiration. You might wonder what valuable skills teens can learn by working at a drive-thru or delivering papers at the crack of dawn, if they still do that. But it's not always about the work itself that provides the value. Learning to work with others and understanding essential responsibilities such as time management are necessary lifetime lessons for anybody. Accomplishing daily goals and earning a paycheck also serve as a building block for developing the self-esteem and personal encouragement needed for a strong work ethic. We don't encourage younger people to work because money is the most critical thing in life, but to learn how money works. I mean, after all, people are going to need to learn one way or another. Sure, kids can learn the fundamentals in a business math class, but there's nothing like having a job to teach kids the meaning of trading their time and skills for money and how it works. With a steady paycheck, kids learn how taxes work and how to manage their money. Most banks offer checking accounts, debit cards, and bank app access for minors to learn the basics. Most teens only know their home and school lives. They might play sports or participate in extracurricular activities, but most haven't been exposed to the people outside their peer groups. Working a job exposes kids to leadership outside these realms, and they can begin to understand that they will not always be under their parents' and teachers' wings. Also, working in a restaurant or retail teaches young folks to interact with people of all ages and backgrounds, which in turn improves their social skills. We all know idle hands do the devil's work. Kids get into trouble because they're usually bored after school, on the weekends, or during summer breaks. Depending on who these kids are working with, this could have an opposite effect, but if they find a positive work environment, they generally have less time for questionable activities. People always ask teens what they want to be when they grow up, and many don't have a clue. Introduction to the workforce may spark interest in the young minds, especially when working for a local or regional entrepreneur. Employment isn't just about taking orders from managers. After working with people for a while, kids can get to know business owners or company management to learn how they got to their positions. If teens can find a positive mentorship through employment, it could encourage them to open up their own business someday. Can you guess what these people have in common? Aspirations for world dominance? Close, but that wouldn't explain Dave Thomas, the only one here I'd trust. But then again, who knows what to believe these days? Maybe Wendy's dad was a mob enforcer for all we know. These people actually all share a common trait in that none of them went to college. Hitler tried to enroll in art school twice, but was denied, both times. I bet they regretted those decisions, but who can blame them? Some of these pieces are relatively decent, but I don't know if they're exactly Vienna Academy of Fine Arts material. Sorry, Hitler. Anyway, enough Hitler art appreciation for one day. But hate him or love him, these people were all successful, at least for a time, whether their victories came in the form of internet censorship, triple stacks and fries, or maniacal genocide. Of course, a basic education is essential, and higher learning is necessary for fields that require formal education such as science and medicine. But modern kids are missing out on valuable lessons offered only through employment because school administrators, parents, and society as a whole forces them down one restricted path to, quote, success. That's why I propose we look back into high school co-op programs. My high school had a co-op program where kids would go to school for half the day or so, and then they would all get bussed out to several designated employers around the community, and they would work for a few hours, and they would get paid, and they would get school credit. Many times they would go and work more after school. But these kids weren't exactly considered the cool kids. But after graduation, while most of us rushed into a pit of debt to learn about things that we would never apply in life, these co-op students were making money, staying out of debt, and I'm sure a few of them at least went off to start their own businesses. However, these attitudes might change. Hordes of young people have taken to social media in recent years to share their horror stories of how they're entering the workforce with tons of student debt, with few job opportunities. Still, one can work in high school and get into a decent school if needed. Trade schools and community colleges are great, but people are worried about the social branding. Either way, I think the people in the future are going to regard this hyper-focus on college prep rather than working the same way we do today about sending 10-year-old kids into the salt mines or off to assembly lines to make toys with lead paint. Well, that's going to do it for this version of NPC Overrider, folks. I'm your lead engineer, Greg. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you want to help save the NPCs, please set the like button to true and share this with a friend who needs to have their source code challenged. If you have an idea for a future release, please open a ticket in the comments section. I'll get back to you ASAP. Also, please consider subscribing. We'd sure love to have you on our development team. But for now, we're going to shut down the office and grab a beer. Thanks again. Have a great day.